Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Knight here, and I'm coming back at you again today, people, with a brand new Fortnite video. And in today's video, I'm going to be ranking every single season of Fortnite that I have played. So I've been playing this game for 3 years, ever since Chapter 1, Season 2. And so I thought, since we have a new season coming up, which is going to be Season 7, I think it'd be pretty fun just to go take a look at some of the old seasons and see how I would rank them from worst to best. Which ones do I love, which ones do I hate, and which ones do I just kind of have some mixed feelings towards. So I think this would be a pretty fun video to do. So if you do enjoy it, then please feel free to leave a big fat thumbs up and subscribe. That would be greatly appreciated. And with that said, let's just jump right into it. Alright guys, so starting off our list at the number 15 position, and what in my opinion is the worst season in Fortnite history. It's actually not going to be Season X, but rather it's going to be Chapter 2 Season 2. This one I'm sure is actually going to anger quite a few people, but just at least hear me out. The main reason I hate the season so much is because it does almost nothing right. It had a horrible gun meta with people always using double heavy snipers. It had a bunch of minigun spam. It had OP mythic items, which I know some people do like, but personally, I just found them to be very annoying and just frustrating to play against. And it had aimbot NPCs, like literally Midas. Like what were you on, bro? And the POIs, I mean, they were some of the worst laid out POIs ever. Like the agency is my least favorite POI of all time. I think it genuinely had the worst gun meta, the worst map, and it also lasted the longest. I mean, it was literally the length of 2 seasons. So there's pretty much almost nothing good I can say about it other than the 2 live events. But other than that, really hated this season. I was just waiting for it to be over. Alright, and now moving on to our number 14 spot. This is the one that I'm sure most people were actually expecting to be at the lowest spot. It's going to be Season X or Season 10. Yeah, I don't hate it as much as I hated Chapter 2 Season 2. But that's probably because it was at least mercifully short, unlike Chapter 2 Season 2, which was the longest season in the history of the game. But still, it was a very rough season, and there was a lot wrong with it. You know, horrible POIs, a horrible map, a very weird gun meta. But to me, like as much as I don't like that stuff, it can really, the main flaw of this season can be described in one word. It can be summed up in one keyword: mechs. Freaking mechs, dude. If they could have just gotten rid of the mechs, it would have been a heck of a lot better. It still would have been like a pretty mediocre season, but it wouldn't have been nearly as bad as what we got. But I do have to give a little bit of credit to this season, because at least it did end on a high note. They did bring in Starry Suburbs, which is a POI that I actually did quite enjoy. And they did actually remove the mechs. Well, they didn't really remove it, but they made it so they self-destructed as soon as they landed. So they basically removed it. And also had a really cool end live event. So at least it ended on a high note, which I unfortunately can't really say for Chapter 2 Season 2. But still, overall, a very garbage season. Alright, and now moving on to our number 13 spot. This to me is going to be the original Season 5. I will admit, I do have some nostalgia for this season. I know a lot of other people do too, but I think the main reason I dislike the season so much is because this was the season the game started going downhill. This was the season where things in Fortnite started to change for the worse. This is when they started doing, what in my opinion were negative map changes with the desert. I wasn't really a huge fan of it. I mean, looking back on it, it was all right, but and I know a lot of other people really loved it, but personally, I don't think it was better than the stuff it replaced with Moisty, the prison, and RIP, the OG Gus track. But that definitely wasn't the worst part of it. They also they brought in the spray meta, which just nobody asked for that, and for good reason. To me, that's just not nearly as fun as overpowered shotguns, because, well, yes, they are overpowered. They also do take like a decent amount of skill, like double pumping. Yes, it was kind of overpowered in a sense, but it also took skill in order to do it. You can't just give a noob 2 pumps and like bam, they know exactly, like they're just gonna destroy everyone they come across. So yeah, that, like, they changed the gun meta for the worse, they changed the map for the worse, and overall it was just, in my opinion, this was really where things started going downhill. So because of that, I just really can't rank it all that high. Alright, and now moving on to the number 12 spot. This for me is going to be Chapter 2 Season 1. Yeah, this season, it was just boring. I mean, it was so boring. Like, at first, I actually was having quite a bit of fun. It's like, oh, new map, new stuff to explore, and a very simplified gun meta. I really enjoyed that part of it. What I didn't like was we got essentially no content for pretty much the whole season other than Star Wars, which, well, I did like the lightsabers. The events sucked, and they were broken, and they probably would have been way better if it was just in their own LTM. And what else did we get? Oh, yeah, we got the harpoon gun. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, other than that, it was just like nothing really like special about this season. It was so boring, and it lasted for so flipping long. Again, double the length of a normal season, and it was just, yeah, it was just, everything grew very stale. It really annoyed me. And also on top of that, trap spam. I mean, literally, I felt like 75% of my deaths during this season was literally just to traps. They weren't even to gunfights. They were just traps. So, yeah. Overall, a very boring season that lasted way too long. Alright, and now moving on to our number 11 spot. This is probably a season that I would say I did have some fun with. I do have some fond memories of it, but overall it still wasn't all that great. This is going to be season 7. Yeah, it was kind of like a better version of season 10. It had a slightly better map. It didn't have the volcano, so we still have Wailing Woods, which was very nice. It did get rid of Risky Reels though, and that really hurt it in my opinion. I wasn't a huge fan of the snow biome. I know some people did really enjoy that, but I really wasn't a big fan of the biomes and the map changes they were doing by this point. I personally would much rather have Flush Factory, but that aside, again, the main thing that really brings this season down so low for me, though, it's the planes. I mean, the planes were just, they were insane. Like, I think planes are a fun thing if done in the right way. Mainly if they're in an LTM. I think Air Royale, that's the right way to do planes. That's a fun LTM, but they shouldn't be in the core mode. And so because of that, it was just so annoying. It was third-partied by them all the time. It was frustrating, and not to mention the Infinity Blade as well. I mean, don't even get me started on the drama with that. So, overall, I would just say, like, I didn't particularly hate this season. It was just kind of a meh season. Alright, and now moving into the top 10, I'm going to go with Season 8 for this one. Personally, this was just a slightly more fun version of Season 7 for me. Honestly, I mean, I would say it actually had a worse map than Season 7 with the whole new jungle area. I wasn't really a huge fan of it. The volcano was alright, but the Sunny Steps part was just, yeah, definitely nowhere near as good as Wailing Woods. But I would say the gun meta is really what brought this season up a little bit for me. I really enjoyed the fun stuff we got. The ballers, while yes, they were crazy at first and competitive, once they balanced them, I think they were actually quite a bit of fun. The Flint Knock, great weapon. Boom Bow, yes, it was OP, but still a very fun type of OP weapon. So I would say overall, I actually did enjoy this season quite a bit. But still, it did have its issues. So I would say like somewhere around this middle-ish area. But definitely not a bad season. I would say this is where we're starting to get into the good seasons. Alright, and now moving on to our number 9 spot. I gave this one to Chapter 2, Season 4. Now, I'm going to get the negative stuff out of the way first. One, the Marvel Mythic Superpowers. Again, I know some people do enjoy that, and if you do, that's perfectly fine. I completely respect that. But to me, I would always have fun in a game until I encountered someone with one of the mythic powers. I genuinely just did not like them. I really wish they weren't in the core modes. And also the Fortnite Nightmares, that was really annoying. I did not, like, I hated getting third party by an army of shadows. I think that's what they were called anyways. It was just so frustrating. But all that aside, I still think this was actually a pretty fun season. I had a really good map, some very positive map changes. I really like Stark Industries and that whole upstate New York, I think is what that was called. Overall, I think that was fun. It had a really good gun meta. So it was actually, in my opinion, one of the best seasons that this chapter has had to offer. Alright, and now moving on to our number 8 spot. This is actually going to be our current season, which is Chapter 2, Season 6. I think this season, overall, it's positive. I would say it has some pretty decent map changes. Bony Burbs wasn't all that great, but it still wasn't terrible. It didn't, like, ruin the map or anything. The Spire, it sucks to land at, but I think it actually is kind of fun to, you know, rotate to. The gun meta, I think it's a fine gun meta. They added some good stuff throughout the season. You know, they added the tac shotgun, nice. Infantry rifle, good. Dual pistols, love it. Thank God those are finally back. Now the crafting system, It definitely needed some changes over time, and I still think it does need some experimenting on. I have gotten used to it, but I think it's just kind of annoying though that you have to like grind out materials and stuff just to get normal weapons, which in previous seasons you could just find off the ground. But again, I have kind of gotten used to that, and hopefully they will change that more when Season 7 comes. But overall, again, like Season 4, I think this is definitely one of the better seasons that Chapter 2 has had to offer. Alright, and now moving on to number 7. This is going to be what, in my opinion, is one of the best seasons Chapter 2 has had. It's going to be Chapter 2 Season 3. This season was, in my opinion, a much-needed breath of fresh air after Season 2, which lasted painfully long. This was, in my opinion, a miles better improvement over that. Honestly, I had a lot more fun this season than what I first anticipated. I mean, first of all, the map. I wasn't expecting to enjoy the flooded map, but honestly, it was a lot of fun. I genuinely kind of missed that map. I think it was overall positive map changes for me. And the gun meta, the charged shotgun, it did have its issues personally, but I think it mainly just came down to the fact that, like, if you were good with it, you will get by. It honestly, I mean, if you can get a fully charged hit off on someone with that thing, it will hit like a truck. So overall, I think good gun meta, good map. The main downfall of this, though, in my opinion, was probably the Marauders. But overall, I'd say this is actually a pretty fun season. I give it a thumbs up. Alright, and now moving on to our number 6 spot. This is going to be Season 9. This, in my opinion, is definitely the best late Chapter 1 season that we've had. It definitely was very nice because of the gun meta. Granted, it didn't have the pump and had the combat, and that was a pretty controversial weapon. But overall, I actually kind of enjoyed it at the time. And I think the map was actually a slight improvement over Seasons 8 and 7, simply because they had the whirlwind thing. I cannot remember for the life of me what those were called. But you know what I'm talking about. And also had those big drones in the sky, which was also a lot of fun to play with. So overall, I would say this is actually a pretty fun season. Good map, good gun meta, and in my opinion, it had the best live event to date, which was the Monster vs. Robot event. That was my personal favorite. So overall, I actually really enjoyed this season. Alright, now cracking into the top 5. This is actually going to be a little bit of a controversial one. It's going to be Season 6. Now, just hear me out. I know why so many people say they hate this season. And they say they hate it because they hate Fortnite Mares. And I completely agree. I hate it just as much as any of you. In fact, I would even say I hate it more than any of you. But when you get past that, you gotta realize it actually only lasted for like a week. And outside of that, I personally think that Season 6 was an amazing season. It was such a good time. I absolutely loved the start and end of this. And honestly, it felt short. Like, it literally, I think it was so enjoyable. It genuinely felt short by the time it ended. I enjoyed it so much. I love the floating island. It was just such a dynamic and really cool idea, and it kept things fresh because it kept moving around the map, and I still think it had a really good gun meta. Now granted, it did have the SMG spray meta that Season 5 had, but by this point I would say they definitely balanced them out and nerfed it a little bit, and they actually buffed shotguns a little bit towards the end because they added in the purple and gold versions of the pump shotgun, and also buffed some of the other shotguns in that same update. And also, it brought in the quad crashers, which is, in my opinion, my personal favorite vehicle of all time in the game. So, Fortnite Mares sucked, yes. But if you can get past that one terrible week, the rest of this season was an absolute blast. Alright, and now moving on to our number 4 spot. This is, in my opinion, without a doubt, the best season of Chapter 2. It's going to be Chapter 2, Season 5. Honestly, this was just such a pleasant surprise. It had such good map changes. They brought back so many fan favorite classics. They brought back Tomato Town. They brought back the Durr Burger restaurant. They brought back Tilted freaking Towers. They brought back Flush Factory, which was honestly just such a fan favorite of mine. I absolutely loved it. And they also brought back some genuinely good new POIs too. The new sand, all the sand with the pink crystals. That was honestly really good. They brought in the Butter Barn. That was a lot of fun, and also, you know, just had one of the catchiest tunes ever. Honestly, it was really fun in terms of the map, and the gun meta was also really good. Granted, they removed the pump, but I honestly don't think that was a bad trade for the lever action. I think that was honestly a really fun shotgun to use. And I really loved it. I really loved this season, and I would be so shocked if Season 7 manages to beat it, but if it does, then I'm not going to complain. Alright, and now moving on to our number 3 spot, this is going to be Season 2. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are probably going to be, complaining in the comments saying, oh, you're just letting nostalgia get in the way. And you know what? Maybe I am, but I also am going to say, to heck with it, I do not care. I honestly only look back on this season with fond memories. I do not have a single bad thing I can say about it. I just remember starting in this season, absolutely loving it. I just remember just being introduced into this new game, this new world of where it's like, yes, it's gunfighting, but like it's memes, it's fun, it's goofy. It's a completely different experience than any other game I've ever played. So I really enjoyed it. There's a lot of fun stuff in here. It still had a really fun gun meta. Some stuff was a little bit broken, but honestly, I don't think it was like to the point where it just ruined it. So honestly, nothing bad I can say about this season. So therefore, I have to give it such a high spot. Alright, now moving on to our number 2 spot. This is going to be Season 3. Honestly, I would say pretty much everything I said about Season 2, just more so for Season 3. In my opinion, it was just a better, more extreme, more fun, more everything version of Season 2. I look back on it with even more fond memories, just more stuff, more fun with my friends. It was just an absolute blast. I had such a great time during this season. You still had double shotguns. You could still use double pump tack. The heavy shotgun got added. It had good meme stuff like the guided missile. That was a lot of fun. The impulse grenades. Just so much fun with this season. Just a truckload of fun. But there's still not a whole lot I can say about it. But I'm just saying, if you played this season, then you know what I'm talking about. Alright, but then finally closing off our list at the number 1 spot. This is, in my opinion, my favorite Fortnite season of all time. It's going to be Season 4. Just, what a blast, dude. Honestly, what a blast this season was. I loved everything about it. It was the perfect map, the perfect gun meta, the perfect amount of content. It was great. Absolutely phenomenal. I loved it. I loved the map. Like, the map was so good. In my opinion, it had the best map of all time. It replaced Dusty Depot with Dusty Divot, which you can disagree with this, but I personally think that that's actually an improvement. I loved the Hop Rocks. Just such a fun thing to just mess around with. It had such a good gun meta with a good amount of content. It still had double shotguns, which, like I said before, I personally think it's actually a good, positive, and fun thing to have in the game, and I would love for them to bring it back, but unfortunately they're not ever going to, I don't think. They didn't have a spray meta at the time. I mean, they had the LMG and the drum gun, but like I said, the double shotguns were still a thing, so most people weren't even using spray weapons at that time, at least not to their extreme like they do now. Yeah, just such a fun time. And also the rocket event, the first ever live event in Fortnite history. It was game breaking, like not just for Fortnite but for just video gaming in general. I mean, it was insane what they did, and also just what it laid the foundations for. It's just, looking back on it, it's absolutely nuts. And also, just, I have to mention this, the Thanos LTM. I mean, the original Infinity Gauntlet, just becoming Thanos. It was incredible. It was incredible. I don't think it was as good as what they did in Season 8, but still, it was so much fun. Just, this season, overall, I loved it. I loved everything about it. I'm just looking back on it, it was probably the perfect Fortnite season. And if they do ever manage to beat it, then I am going to be just so happy. So I love this season. It was such a blast, and it comes in at number 1 for me. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please feel free to leave a big fat like and subscribe. That would be greatly appreciated. And don't forget to leave a comment down below. How would you rank all of the seasons of Fortnite that you have personally played? But with that said, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys in Season 7. Goodbye.